ठीक है सर, हम शुरू करते हैं. On behalf of chairpersons of Punjab University departments with museums, Professor Daisy Batish, Professor Harpreet Kaur, Professor Dr. Jagtej Grewal, Professor Parubal Sidhu, Professor Dr. Maninder Kaur, and myself, I welcome Sir Shri Shakti Sinha ji. He's a renowned author and administrator, and I also welcome all our guests who have joined. Audience in audience, I could see Professor Asutosh Kumar and faculty members and students. So I heartily welcome you all to this webinar. And I now pass on the stage, the platform to Professor Parubal Sidhu. She would introduce the speaker, our esteemed speakers, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome Shri Shakti Sinha ji. So we have amongst us a very eminent person as our distinguished speaker. Shri Shakti Sinha is presently the Honorary Director of Atal Bihari Institute of Policy Research and International Studies at University of Vadodara. Earlier, he held a very important post as Director of the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, New Delhi. Shri Sinha is also presently associated with important think tanks. He is a distinguished fellow at the India Foundation, New Delhi, and a non-resident senior fellow at the Institute of South Asian Studies, Singapore. Shri Shakti Sinha has a Master's in History from Delhi University and a Master's in Public Policy from George Mason University, United States. He has had a distinguished career as an Indian Administrative Service Officer from 1979 to 2013. He has held many key administrative posts at the union and state level. He has also held key international level offices. Internationally, he headed the United Nations Governance and Development Team in Afghanistan from 2006 to 2009, coordinating donor support to Afghan government. And before that, from 2000 to 2004, he was senior advisor as India's executive director on the World Bank board. Shri Sinha is the author of an acclaimed book on Vajpayee ji, titled Vajpayee, The Years That Changed India. Besides, he has edited 8 books, the most recent one being an authoritative account of the different facets of India-China relations. The book is titled One Mountain, Two Tigers, India, China and the High Himalayas. He has to his credit many book chapters, policy documents, etc. on various varied topics like the political economy of India, Indian foreign policy, defense and strategic affairs, governance, etc. for reputed national and international publications. So we are very honored to have you with us, sir, today. So today, Shri Sinha will be speaking on the relevance of museums in the digital age. So over to Shri Shakti Sinha ji.
Thank you, Professor Sidhu. Thank you, Professor Rajiv Patnaik. Friends, feel very happy speaking to you today. Punjab University is a very eminent university. And in, I think, very short while after partition itself was able to establish itself very quickly. So I feel very honored to be speaking to you. A university is mainly about preparing our youth to take over the responsibility of running the nation, of guiding society along correct lines. University is about developing curiosity, that one learns to question, to identify, to analyze, and to understand. All things that will go to tomorrow to helping you solve problems, think of solutions, and taking the nation forward. the past and the present come together in this journey. As a museum, what is a museum? A museum actually provides just that platform where the lessons of the past fuse with issues of today to help prepare a better tomorrow. Today, however, before I go into how museums can and should remain relevant in the digital age, which is why we are gathered here, I would like to present before you certain emerging issues. Well, not really emerging, many have emerged actually, so that we understand what is it that the digital age is. Use the word digital very loosely. What is the digital age? Now, our lifestyles have undergone very major changes. The youth may not know, some others may have forgotten it. India has changed a lot. It started changing in 91. And let me tell you that in my 6.5 decades in this world, the last 10 years, 1 decade, has actually seen more changes than the previous 5 decades that I remember. That is the kind of change happening in society. But mostly we are not cognizant of it. We just live life as it is. Something that is troubling because you must understand the forces at work. If I draw your attention, simple cell phone, right? Now, I'll tell you why I'm talking about the cell phone. Till 10, 12 years ago, we had shifted to smart cameras, of course, where you didn't need to put reels. But if you go there and you could download photographs to your PC directly, before that, we had to put reels in cameras. The reels were expensive. Each reel could take 12 photographs or 36 photographs. And therefore, you were very careful in shooting photos. Today, in a burst, we take 50 photographs and don't bother about it. When you look at all this, I use this to listen to music. Most of you do that. Netflix, Disney, whatever it is, it's all here. Earlier, we used to hang calendar on the wall to know the date. I've not seen a calendar for a long time. Though some people still send calendars in New Year, we really don't use calendars anymore. We should keep diaries to make notes. Now this has notes facilities. I don't need a diary for that. We had address books where we used to write the names of our friends, our colleagues, our acquaintances, name, address, phone number, etc. All that has gone, completely gone. I think our VCF does easier job of capturing names and addresses than the difficulty of even punching them. All these old devices and systems have gone. Even laptops, desktops are becoming obsolete. I travel a lot, even in the days of pandemic. I type, so I can't do with the phone. I have to carry my laptop with me. When the laptops came, we found them so light. What a relief. Earlier, if you wanted to type, those big desktops on our desk, you could only type on your desk. Today, I can type up in the airport, inside a plane, wherever it is, right? The desktops, the laptops now, it's a decent laptop I have got. I find my right shoulder in perpetual pain because of the bag I carry. Today, the laptop seems heavy to us. I guess even tablet seems heavy when we're used to such small phones. Most officers, especially private officers, no more are secretaries to senior officers, executives. Automatic answering machine, if you know the extension you're looking for, please dial it or wait for the operator. One operator comes after 5 minutes. Nobody affords operators anymore. Everything is automatic, digitized. We used to write letters, go to a post office, buy an inland letter, write, post. Do we write letters anymore? Even SMSs now people have a difficulty. So we discovered that emoticons are much better than typing it out. Do I need to know the temperature of Chandigarh or Kangra? Sitting here, I can do it. I don't have to look at the temperature on the wall or ask you what the temperature is. And all this on the phone. And yes, we also use the phone to talk to people. The reason I say also use the phone is the last time I went to buy a phone, it was in February this year in Vadodara. Nice shop, decent phones. Started looking at phones. And the shopkeeper, being a good salesman, was giving me all his sales page. This has this feature, camera has so many megapixels and this, etc. And he looked at me that I was not interested. He said, "Sir, why do you want a phone?" I said, "To talk to people." I mean, it has become so, talking to people through phone has become so secondary now because the phone does everything for us. You are young, mostly young. You would not know how difficult a phone was in the good old days. If you wanted a phone, you had to book it 15 years, 20 years to get a phone. If you were MP, MLA, possibly it would come down to 5 years or so. That was the phone. When I first came to Delhi in 1973 to study, sometimes people gave cards with phone numbers written on it, but before the phone number, they would put the word PP. Now, I thought PP meant personal phone. No, PP meant पड़ोसी का phone. You be on good touch with your neighbor so that somebody thinks, oh, भाई साहब, बगल वाले घर से उनको बुला दीजिएगा, सोनू को बुला दीजिएगा, बात करना है. That was our condition not so long ago. Things like scooters. Today, do you care about a scooter? Scooters were a rarity. When boys were born, and we are unfortunately a patriarchal society, the father would go and book a Vespa, later Bajaj scooter, so that when the boy went to college after 16, 17 years, he would get a scooter to ride. A waiting period of 16, 17 years for a scooter. Unfortunately, we didn't even realize how liberating these two-wheelers have become for our women. What an amazing revolution it has happened. Suddenly, from being a rarity, it has become absolutely the necessity. As I said, these drastic changes. Many people predicted changes. Not really. Many did not. When the change came, we didn't recognize it. And I'll take you back to a long journey. In 1970, a book came out in the USA by Alvin and Heidi Toffler, husband and wife team of political scientists. He made millions from the book. The book was called Future Shock. There's a joke in America, having studied in America, they say that never make a prediction, especially about the future, because you'll always be wrong. People do dare to make predictions, the Tofflers did. A lot of the predictions went haywire, but some things, they were so precise. It's amazing how they could be precise. And that will really explain the digital age to you. First, in 1970, they said knowledge is the key. That is, if a society has to progress, it has to become a knowledge society. Till then, we calculated a country's potential on what? What are the minerals they have, agricultural land they have, all kinds of things, raw materials, etc., rainfall, temperature, never about people. They said wrong. Calculate a nation's potential based on its people, because if people have knowledge, that society changes faster and becomes better. Second thing they said, those were the days when there were no computers. Very few computers. NASA had computers. Best NASA computer would have been the size of a building today's and had less computing power than the microwave in your house. That is the kind of thing they had. And yet, in those days, people had not seen computers. Toffler talked about information overload. I mean, today I can't imagine without Google doing any search. Everything was manual those days. Information overload. Why would information overload? Because information would get transmitted over wires into computers in the homes. Computers in homes. These are the days when PC was not even in the horizon. Nobody had thought of personal computers. And yet, that would wait for many decades. And yet, Toffler was thinking that there will be personal computers whose usage will be universal. And this, because of so many computers and so many people on it, would lead to information overload and could cause chaos, difficult to handle. He talked about other things. He talked about telecommuting. Every house will have a personal computer, so going to office could become redundant. We can work from home. Physical location and physical presence would no more be important. Again, this is 1970. For years, last 15, 20 years, people have been talking about work from home, work from home, work from home. It never happened till COVID left us, hit us hard, and suddenly we realized that it is possible to work from anywhere. I'm sitting in Delhi, somebody's in Chandigarh, somebody may be anywhere else in the world, And this will go on and on. Universities, I must say, have risen to the occasion and done a very good job, despite the problems, in making sure that today we are able to use technology for educational purposes. And Toffler's next point is again something which I give credit to him, is relevant to education in a slight way, but really important for us to understand. He talked about changing business scenario, and you'll wonder where does education fit into it. I'll just explain it. Now, for businesses, private business, which is the mainstay of any economy, any developed economy, the firm, the company is the mainstay of it. The companies are formal, they are vertical, top down, the hierarchical levels are there. And then you have a horizontal spread of departments which work in silos. Something like different departments of a university, you have physics, you have chemistry, you have history, you have political science, Sanskrit, and so on and so forth. The wall between these departments, between sales and marketing and finance and HR of a company, are as thick, as difficult to break as the wall between the chemistry and the history department of any Indian university is. Even osmosis, those who studied biology would know, even osmosis did not work there. And yet Toffler said that the firm of the future would work on adhocracy, from the word ad hoc, which means if a task has to be performed, groups will be formed. They'll do the task and the group will dissolve and a new group will be formed for doing the next task. So the rigid structure of companies would break down. That is substantially what Apple and Google have managed to do. And that is what the new education policy is hinted at and explained, that you can study chemistry and Indian history and French language at the same time to obtain a degree, which you must have the skill available to work in this multidisciplinary environments. That to me is what digital age is. That we have to get out of this mindset of 1, 2, 3, 4, be able to do jumps, use technology, not become a slave of technology, but use technology to perform tasks that was not possible earlier on at a fraction of the cost, at a fraction of the time. Today, in yesteryears, to write a letter from Delhi to Chandigarh and get a reply took a week, 10 days. Today it takes 10 seconds. I can send an SMS, you reply to it immediately. This is the kind of things have changed. So when you talk about digital age, this is what one has to keep in mind. Just before I move on to museums, the trouble with the digital age is it is changing so fast with AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, what's called the fourth industrial revolution, that we don't even know what jobs would be required in the year 2030. Some say even as early as the year 2025, the job profile will change so much. We are not even aware of that. So the scope for learning has now become, the time for learning has become very encapsulated. You do not have the luxury of 10 years and 12 years or 3 BA degrees or 2 MA degrees. You have to learn as you're working. And that is where curiosity, where a good education, and where museums come in. This ability to keep learning non-stop, or to keep redesigning your aeroplane, even as the aeroplane is in the sky and flying. That is the digital age. In that age, do we really need museums? After all, so much is easily available, freely available on the net. I pick up my phone, I do Google, I do a good search, I can find literally anything. How many of us actually visit museums? My question to all my friends who run museums, since I've run it myself for a short while, why are museums so boring, so unchanging, so dark? Why is it? Museums traditionally in India, in popular languages of Hindustani, Hindi, Urdu, etc., North India, were known as Ajaib Ghar, place of wonder. In colloquial Hindi in Bihar, we call them Jadoo Ghar, even magic. Because so much inside that you're not aware of. You almost find it magical. When you look, it exposes us, makes us curious. You find a seashell fossil at a height of 12,000, recovered at a height of 12,000, 14,000 feet from the Himalayas. It suddenly tells you that the world has not always been static and unchanging. What is now the Himalayas was the bottom of a sea. The stunning, if you ever go to Chennai, please go to this museum next to Egmore Station, State Museum. The Chola bronzes, Shiva dancing, the Tandav, the Natraj, absolutely stunning. I've spent hours just there watching it. Or the famous statue of Siddhartha, thin, skeleton showing as he's meditating and trying to become enlightened. Very, very powerful images. The luminosity of the Kangala miniatures, for which Professor Goswami and Panjab University rightly became famous the world over. Of course, the specialized museums of technology, Museum of Transport, Museum of Urbanization, of Art Forms, rocks, minerals. I've been to a glass museum in the USA, the Museum of the Khalsa at Anandpur Sahib, or the Partition Museum at Amritsar. There are museums and museums. The Railway Museum in Delhi. There's no end to what museums can be. The museum need not be one rigid, can be flexible, can be different types, can cover many subjects, can be a one subject museum. So museums allow us really to explore so much of it. Museum visits should be attractive. So once a person is exposed, and most of us through school or somewhere have been taken forcibly to visit a museum. But once that first compulsory visit is over, people should become self-motivated and wanting to visit museums on a regular basis. I'm not saying this because I ran a museum for 3 short years. I say this because wherever I go, I try and visit local museums. The first museum that I really remember very clearly visiting, big museum, was the National Museum in Jakarta in Indonesia, and a week later the National Museum in Bangkok. Jakarta Museum, the first 2 big halls, which I spent a few hours looking at it, you feel you're in India. Every statue, whether it's Ganesh, whether it's Shiv, whether it's Vishnu, whether it's a Surya, and features Indian style, you feel so much. Then suddenly realize how our idea of the world has to be broken. We have to better understand it. And yet, as you move along, you can see how that forms are changing, how the local elements are slowly becoming stronger and stronger, and the Indian element are becoming little less dominant. Museum teaches you so much so easily. And then, of course, the National Museum at Delhi. They do a very good job. They keep changing a lot. Amazing. You can again spend hours and hours at that museum, looking at sculptures or paintings or other art forms, etc. Museums like National Museum in Delhi do not have the space to show more than 7-8% of their collection. There is so much they have in their stocks. Hopefully some of it is changing now. But unfortunately in our museums, and I'm not blaming anybody for it, but salaried government servants possibly have difficulties with imagination. So our displays, our shows, which are a matter of deep scholarship actually, but along with rigorous scholarship, we also need good marketing techniques, good presentation techniques to make them look attractive, to make you feel wanting to participate, wanting to know more and more. And our museums are not good at this. Some of the most scholarly people just do not know how to make things look attractive, make you curious, etc. Our advertisements, our marketing are very poor. The shopkeeper at the museum will not have most of the things. And therefore the experience is often disappointing. It's not in keeping with today's times, content and display. Today's youth are alert. Thanks to the net, they're hooked onto the world. They know what's happening. They see different images. And they're able to compare images and then see that the attention span is short because I'm getting bored. If on the other hand, the experience is a good experience, you don't get bored. You get involved in the subject, totally involved in the subject. And therefore, in this digital age, the first principle of a museum should be that the visitor, not the exhibition, not the artifacts, the visitor is the center of the museum, the only purpose for which the museum exists. You don't need a passive bored observer. You need an active participant. That is the challenge. Today, fortunately, we're lucky. Tremendous technologies are available. Projection mapping, virtual reality, augmented reality, video walls, so on and so forth. Many, many. So you can choose the photo you want to see, the painting you want to see, the speech I want to listen to, the video I want to see. You can have individual kiosk when you can do that. This does not mean that it's a purely digital museum. No, you also have the physical part of it. You have groups, you go around, you hear commentaries, you do all that. You need attractive literature, folders, a very smart shop. So you have the physical thing and the virtual thing working together. Because you have to cater to all age groups, to all educational levels, so that you really make it a rich experience for whoever goes there. Cater to them. I was just yesterday using animation. There's a lovely coin in the Indian Museum at Kolkata. It's an Indo-Greek coin of 2,300 years old. Porus on an elephant being chased by Alexander on his horse. And you can turn it around and see on the other side the Greek god Zeus. So today, sitting in my home, on my office, I can see that coin in Calcutta, Kolkata, see how it is and really appreciate it. That doesn't mean you'll do it, you'll do something else. That is the kind of thing which museums have to now provide for. But you must back it up, as I said, technology. You create those spaces and features that would attract people, particularly students, the young, to visit it. Just like you go back and back to Netflix and Disney so easily. Because you find it interesting. You find it holds your attention. Storyline, the plot. You must have a story to tell. Museums must have a story to tell. And yes, make it virtual. So that's in addition to physical. So sitting in Chandigarh, you visit the Indian Museum in Kolkata or the Chola Bronze in Chennai. You can do all that just sitting here. We need to organize the information properly. Normally, our museums are very haphazard. Many of them are very, very happy. Some are very good, of course. So you organize the matter so people can penetrate further, look at it more and more. So from a casual visitor to a scholar doing a PhD, both should find a museum visit worthwhile. So let me back it up by just talking a few minutes about how we try to organize a new museum which is coming up in Delhi called the Museum on Prime Ministers. We were tasked to create this museum on all prime ministers. First, we got a biographical sketch written to begin with. And that has been developed, which has been done into a database, rigorous database, organized in the life of a prime minister, whether Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri or Vajpayee, Indira Gandhi or Morarji Desai, whoever. First, you list the entire life chronologically. Then, because they're important public figures, you cross-reference them thematically. So I want to know Mr. Vajpayee's speech on foreign policy. I should be able to locate it. Vajpayee's foreign visits, I should be able to locate it. Shastri's war efforts, Shastri's economic policies, so I can see them chronologically, I can see them thematically. That kind of database, if we have available, it's not difficult to do. We managed to prepare the database. Then we went about collecting photos and videos of these people. These ran into tens of thousands of it. Some in good condition. In good conditions, we digitize them so that you can leave the original. Nobody will touch the original. And once it is in a digital base, anybody can see it. More than photograph, one person sees at a time or 10. Here, 100 people can see it at the same time. We contacted the photo division, Government of India, Doordarshan, private collection. When people thought we were doing it, the family of the late Prime Chandrasekhar came forward and donated hundreds and hundreds of photographs, which we didn't have in the public domain. Suddenly these are now available. Once people know that the museum is coming up, they come forward, they're generous with it. Then we collected recordings of their speeches. Again, photo division, films division, Doordarshan, other government sources. Again, you have to digitize all of them and then collect the books, etc. So it's a comprehensive job you prepare. But the difficulty is display. And this is where technology is important, but technology is a facilitator. You are the boss. Technology doesn't tell me what to do. Technology I use to do what I want to do. I want to only hear the key moments of a speech. You may want to hear the entire speech. Good. Mr. Devegowda's speech on fertilizer prices. Fine, that's available. I just want to Devegowda on fertilizer prices. I know it in 2 sentences. So that kind of layered approach to presenting information. Not just speeches, videos, films, photos, and you should be able on a screen to scroll through the photographs, enlarge the ones you want to see, ignore the other ones. So you get either simple slots, okay, biographical sketch of Mr. Devagowda, so 100 photographs in a line, you can see them. You want to go to a specific time period, I want Devagowda 96 to 97 as Prime Minister. You can go there and see it. So again, from a person who just wants minimum information to a person pursuing a PhD, all that is available, has to be available. And therefore, you use a range of technologies, complete range of technologies to do that. Don't be tied down by a technology because salesmen are very good, sir, this is the best. No, I'll do this and that. Once you start using a range of technologies, and you must validate your technologies, practice them. I have a very short clip of about, I think, 1.5 or 2 minutes. Dr. Patnaik, could you show us that Pathfinder one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Abhi kar.
Share screen, I can do it or you can do it.
I'll just try. Let me just try.
Of course, this is an ad film like thing, so you won't get the full details. But you get a sense that even in existing structures and buildings, you can present good technology. Like you feel you're shaking hands with the Indian Prime Minister, or I'm standing next to him in a group photograph. You can do so much things with technology, which suddenly makes you want to do it. Or you use holograms, where you feel the person is standing in your presence and speaking. Lots and lots. Holograms is outstanding, but difficult to do because we don't have good video shoots of the people. And if I use a human being as a model and then put the photograph on, it doesn't always work very well. So this is the second one is fine. Okay. This is the Subhash Chandra Bose exhibition in Calcutta. So you have the physical information also available, physical papers, photographs, etc. Here they put 125 questions and answer them. Now on the walls you can have running screens. You can keep watching it. Or in this case, he's selecting what he wants to see himself. The idea is to make it attractive, interesting, innovative, different. So use light, use shade. And some tricks like putting a mirror in between so that you watch it and look yourself and But you have to collect a lot and present them well. Unfortunately, in this, you can't see the technology very well, but yes. Could you show the other one?
Yeah. Just a moment. Just.
Yes, this is the one I'm interested in. I curated this, so I'm interested in this. There's actually music playing also, but it's all right. We did this cutouts of Mr. Vajpayee and Narasimha Rao and called it Pathfinders. Groups of school children lining up, forcibly lining up and talk. I'll end with that. There's an existing building. We try to make it a little more interesting. Snazz it up. And instead of regular screens, we are using different kinds of screens. This is where you think, but then you end up shaking hands with the Prime Minister. So when you get a photograph, you're photographed shaking hands with the Prime Minister, or you're in the photograph with the Prime Minister group. And here you can move photographs at your side, liking the ones you want to see. Other ones you can put the earphone on and listen to speeches so that you don't disturb others. You listen to one speech, somebody else to other speech. The good interactive video walls really help. Really help. Like the gentleman is listening to a speech of Narasimha Rao. He is selecting photographs that he wants to see. This was not very good, the hologram, because we didn't get good videos. Those days, the video quality is not very good. And this is it. So basically, you must use technology. The user is the boss. As I said, you can choose the video, you can choose the capsule. You can have edited capsules, you can have unedited capsules. You can have pair biographical timelines, you can have a far more detailed timeline. So a range of technology can be used for all this. Buy that technology which is capable of being upgraded. And remember, we are not creating a museum of technology, but using technology as an enabler only. So don't overdo technologies. I've been to a museum. The technology is actually taken over everything. That is not what we want. Create an experience center, not display, not static displays, a fun place, a good shop, it's good mementos to carry, not just mugs, not just keychains, but magnets, this and that, and all kinds of stuff you can carry, you can give to people. Do events with local international partners so people are aware of it. Museums like parks should be fun places where you want to go, stroll, meet friends, have coffee, learn something, but don't learn it as forcible. Learn it out of joy. Because don't make museum visits compulsory. Teen Murthy, my biggest sorrow is these hundreds of children coming every day, being lined up with their teachers, and being rushed through the room. No, they're not marching through a museum. Let them stop, look, explore, ask questions. Ye kaun hai bhai, ye kya kar raha hai? Get that feeling and don't force people. The worst thing to do to a museum is to force children to go there and think of it as a torture, as a pain. With that, I come to the end of my talk. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, any ideas, anything, I'm most welcome. But thanks, sir.
Sir.
Sidhu, I'm at your service.
Are there any questions, please?
Thank you, sir.
सर मेरा एक सवाल है.
Rishi?
हाँ, ये जैसे as we digitize things and put them in the web, जो footfall है वो कम नहीं हो जाएगी as we धीरे-धीरे.
But I have two things. One is footfall शायद कम हो शायद बढ़े भी, we don't know. But if the fact that sitting in Delhi, I can visit an exhibition in New York, उससे अच्छा क्या चाहिए? The purpose is outreach. The purpose is not 1000 बच्चे को दिन में लाया म्यूजियम में घुमा दिया. That is no fun. I'm happier to have 50 curious people than 1000 bored people forced to go into there. और मेरा ख्याल है, actually if we do it well, in addition, you'll actually get people coming more and more to it. As I said, it should be an experience center. It should be a fun place where people want to go.
Right.
It's not that the outreach external is bad. You need a wider audience. है ना? अब YouTube पे हम देखते हैं how many views are there. वो भी important है ना? It should be.
I have a question, Patnaik sir.
Good
afternoon, sir. I really thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. And I'm just curious to know how long will it take for us to have such museums in our university, such exciting museums as part of our university, so that we keep our students excited to visit them, because hardly we see inflow of students. You rightly pointed out that students, they do visit, but it seems they are forced to spend some time in the museums, or during our orientations or refresher courses we spend some time.
It's up to you. It's up to us how we do it. In the sense that, one teacher can be very interesting. The same subject can be taught by somebody who's very boring, right? So we can lay down no standards for it. It's to all of us to try and see, if I have to visit a museum, what would I like to do in that museum? What would I like to see, to feel? Even make it a tactile experience. It doesn't have to be only a visual or an audio experience. It can be tactile. The fact you're touching a screen and moving a screen and turning the pages. I went to this very small museum in Banaras, Mansingh, the Mansingh Palace, where you can do virtual aarti there. You can see the river flowing. It suddenly makes you want to sit and or do a very nice sound and light show, not the old static ones, using again technology, where you feel that the actors are around you, they're moving there now. It is possible to do. And I realize that the cost is not very much. But we are uncomfortable with technology and we're uncomfortable with change. So that makes it that those are things which are the actual. So the problem is the 6 inches between the 2 years. That is the problem.
And is there a possibility that we can connect museums of all the Indian universities, so that, like in our university, they have tried to put all these 6 museums together? So it will give us some good comprehensive idea about other departments, other institutes. How are they utilizing these museums? What are they showcasing in their museums? Like something can be done on a university or institutional level in India itself.
You have a very nice website of the government of India called Museums of India, where increasingly more and more museums are joining up. But to join up, you have to be fairly digitized to show your information. Just give me a static link to a museum and nothing happens, no point. I mean, as I said, sitting in my room, I saw this lovely 2,300-year-old coin at the Indian Museum, Kolkata, Museums of India. It tells you which are the museums. It then has it has a thematic list. What do you want to see? Then it has this thing: do you want to see coins? Do you want to see photos? Do you want to see painting? So it gives you all these options. So that is it's still a work in progress. I think museums like your universities once, 6 museums in your university, I think they should move toward joining that. Because once you join that, you're forced to become more efficient. You're forced to become more user-friendly. And that is, I think, is ultimately is what. I mean, why should I have to come to your university to watch the Guler miniatures? I should be able to do it sitting here.
True. Thank you, sir. Hopefully,
Yeah, you people have to do it. People
yeah,
like
we'll
to come and speak and go away.
all right, sir. Thank you so much.
डॉक्टर आशुतोष कुमार का एक कमेंट है, good to be reminded.
I agree with Ashutosh. It must be an agenda. You want to go there. You must be curious.
सही बात, सही बात है.
Have I been so boring that none of the others want to say anything?
बहुत ही बढ़िया रहा. मैं हमारी प्रोफेसर डेजी मैडम हैं, वो शी वुड propose the vote of thanks. Thanks, Daisy madam, please. Muted, madam. मैडम आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Oh,
yeah.
I think yes. Am I audible now?
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
Yes. So it was a great, very interesting lecture. So now I have been assigned the duty of proposing a formal vote of thanks. So I, on behalf of Panjab University and our organizing team, express our sincere thanks to Shri Shakti Sinha ji who is director of Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Policy Research and International Studies, MS University Vadodara, and also former director of Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, New Delhi. So, sir, your lecture was really very enjoyable and very interesting. I never thought that museums can be so interestingly, I mean, given in the form of a lecture. Sir, you have told us many important things where you told us that how technology, depending upon our choice, can play a very important role in making museums more interactive, more interesting, more enjoyable. It was really, sir, very inspiring and very interesting lecture for all of us. And I'm sure all the audience have enjoyed it. And the clip which you showed that were very interesting, where technology can improve the outlook of the museums and how museums can be so interesting, and we can even hear lectures there by putting our earphones and by not disturbing others. So overall, sir, it was a very good lecture for all us who has made a team of 6 department, particularly as museum. I think we can incorporate technology in our museums and make them more interesting and more linked. I mean, otherwise we are isolated. So overall, sir, your lecture was very interesting, and I'm sure all the our audience, esteemed audience, has enjoyed it. Then, sir, it's also my pleasant duty to thank our worthy Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, who has been so inspiring and who has been guiding us to organize lectures, especially who has made a team of our 6 departments on museums so that our museums remain connected with each other and we share our knowledge with each other. So we are very thankful to our worthy Vice Chancellor also. Then we are very thankful to Professor Patnaik, who did all his hard work and organized such an interesting and enjoyable lecture. Then of course we are thankful to the audience, especially the chairpersons of all the 6 departments and other esteemed persons who have